listening to TMZ Movie Crashers.
Welcome back to TMZ's Movie Crashers. I'm your host, Fabian Garcia from TMZ.
I'm your host, Paige Cotton from toofab.
I'm Cachet McClay from TMZ.
Cachet, another fellow writer joining us. Thank you. We appreciate you coming on as our special guest.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Lots of movie news this week. The D23 Expo was going on this weekend in Anaheim. The Toronto Film Festival was going on, obviously, in Toronto. Lots of first looks and trailers, lots of premieres. Harrison Ford getting weepy-eyed over the last Indiana Jones movie. Mufasa prequel coming apparently, the which I don't understand. I mean, the live action Lion King did kind of terribly with people, I think. So I don't know. It's weird that they're making another one, but we'll see.
Jacob Elordi is going to play Elvis.
Yes, Jacob Elordi playing Elvis. This after Austin Butler kind of killed it in the role. Steven Spielberg getting tons of Oscar buzz, including Michelle Williams for his new movie, The Fabelmans, which is kind of based on his life, how he came into movie making and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that stuff at length. I just wanted to acknowledge it to say that we're aware of it. Where we are going to start today, though, is with the big motion picture. This is our biggest movie story of the week, and we have got to talk about Halle Bailey as Ariel. The first look in the teaser of the movie was shown, and
The
Little Mermaid, correct, and it is something. There's a big saga and kind of a bit of a controversy with this. We'll get into that in a second, but right off the bat, I want to hear. Let's hear Halle. We have the section of her singing. Let's hear the trailer from Disney here, right on the bat.
Out of the sea, wish I could be part of that
So there it is. There's Halle Bailey singing "Part of Your World." I gotta say, hearing it and seeing it gave me chills.
Literally.
It gave me goosebumps hearing it, and the reason for me personally is because one, it reminds me so much of the original. It's very reminiscent of the original, but it's also different. It's kind of different. You can hear her doing different soulful and different riffs, like like bee. Like she does like a little thing with the bee, and I was blown away.
Yeah. I just think we just have to give her her flowers. There were so many black girls and little girls reacting to this, saying she's black like me.
There's a TikTok compilation, right? Yes.
And she just reposted it. It just makes me emotional. It's made so many celebrity adults like Nicki Minaj come out and say, this is for me. This is for so many black children, girls, and women who didn't see that growing up.
Right.
So it's so moving, to say the least.
It is, and that's actually a great segue into kind of the controversy over this. Look, when Halle Bailey was first announced as Ariel, there was backlash. People like, oh my God, Disney's going woke, all this nonsense. All of it really, in my mind, boils down to racism. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are just, their racist colors are showing, even if they're trying to mask it as like, well.
They try to excuse it.
Yeah, they're trying to excuse it and trying to say, well, it's not like the movie. It's like, it's just nonsense. Ariel is a mermaid. She can literally be any skin color.
It's a cartoon.
It makes no difference whatsoever. It makes no difference. But with that said, I thought she looks great. She looks great as Ariel. She sounds great as Ariel. But with this backlash over the racism, it's kind of evolved now because with the release of the teaser, the racism bubbled up again. There was more backlash, and there's all these different reactions and things like that, which is to be expected. We knew that was going to happen from the way people responded the first time. But now it's kind of evolved into this new thing. We did a story over the weekend about this where Jodie Benson, who voiced the original Ariel, both speaking and singing and speaking lines, she was kind of getting torn down this weekend by people who were trying to kind of celebrate Halle and praise Halle and kind of prop her up. But by the same token, there were a few people on Twitter, and I don't know how many it was. It was a small handful, but some people were kind of shitting on Jodie Benson and her original take as Ariel in order to kind of praise Halle. So it's like tear one down to prop the other one up. And we did a story about it. And to me, I gotta say, like it's unfortunate that happened. It's what do you guys think of that? What the fact that actually happened itself?
Well, honestly, if I'm being honest here, I don't think it's okay at all to tear one woman down to uplift the next.
Right, or pitting them against each other.
No, because
right.
they're completely different. I mean, she was the original. She paved the way, and Halle she's making her own history, her own mark as a black actress.
Right.
However, I do think some of the backlash Jodie is getting is only a fraction of what Halle had to withstand by being this black character.
For
so I
sure.
think it's just like a counter movement to that.
Right.
I don't think anyone is intentionally set out to say The Little Mermaid. Everybody knows The Little Mermaid as it was. So I think it's just sort of countering that, I think.
Right. But I'm curious, like, because I have a theory on why that counter, because I agree. I think it is a countering. It's like a pendulum swing, right? Like for Halle, when she was announced, the pendulum swung against her, right? People were angry. But now, and again, you're right, it's not even equal in the measure, right? But still, I do kind of see it as a pendulum swing in the opposite direction. I have a theory onto why that might be.
People always go to the extremes these days. There's always like one or the other. Like you gotta have one person gets criticized, so the other person has to get criticized as well. But I agree with what you're saying. Like Jodie, the people, criticizing her and putting her down. It's not even like a fraction compared to Halle.
And we should quickly explain like what the criticism was. People, and a lot of this might have been jokey and lighthearted, but it was still kind of seen as shady or shots being taken. People were kind of posting the old Ariel clip of her singing "Part of Your World" on the rocks, and some girl was saying, "Tell me why Ariel sounds so flat right now compared to Halle Bailey." So again, maybe it was kind of jokey.
To be honest, though, I feel like whenever there's like sort of a follow-up in this way, there's gonna be comparisons.
Of course, of course.
And if some people feel like Halle sort of knocked it out the park compared to Jodie, I don't think that's necessarily like. I think that's gonna happen naturally if they feel like she killed this note. I mean, I think it's kind of done not in such a vicious way.
You're right, but like some of those tweets,
criticism,
some of the tweets,
is vicious.
Yeah,
some of the tweets. You're right about that. The comparisons are naturally going to happen, obviously, right? But some of the tweets seem to be kind of taken in a mean way, like kind of like sort of seemingly belittling Jodie a little bit. Oh my God, she's so flat. Like she wasn't flat. She was fine. You know what I mean?
What's your theory on this?
So my theory on why I think some people are responding this way, because I want to be frank, like a lot of the tweets that I was seeing, it wasn't like a massive amount, but it was a select few. Most of the tweets I saw that were basically shitting on Jodie, they seem to be coming from black Twitter users, right? It was black people that were kind of taking these shots. That was just from the select few I saw. And what I think is they're resentful over the backlash that Halle received. They processed that, they internalized it, they resented it.
I mean, that's
and they were probably totally. And I'm just trying to explain the theory, but like they probably were resentful and maybe angry about it, and they wanted to not lash out, but they wanted to push it back out in some way, shape, or form. They didn't, and it's hard to aim it at the trolls who were going after Halle because you don't know who these people are. They're anonymous. They're all over the place. Who knows? And I think for whatever reason, and I think this is misguided, they kind of maybe they took Jodie as like, oh, like that's their Ariel, so let's attack her. That's kind of what I see. Like,
or they could have just thought she was flat.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
true.
I don't think it's fair to say it was like resentment. I think that like a black person hasn't seen this black Ariel princess, and so to root for her, I think part of it does come from like defending someone who they felt like what has been cast down for this role over and over again. But I don't think it's necessarily holds the same weight in the criticism.
What do you mean exactly?
Like saying someone is flat versus someone shouldn't be in this role. I think they come from two different places. So I'm not saying like obviously there's a lot of tweets and some people are gonna come from a like have like malice, but I think saying like someone is flat, I don't think that compares at all.
I agree. I mean, like the flat comment itself is kind of, it's light, right? It's not that heavy. But let's just, I mean, even if it is lighthearted, it is, in my mind, it is still kind of coming from a mean place. Even if it's not as to the extent that Halle's receiving, I get that. But like, it's still coming from a mean place in my mind. And the tweets that are coming from a mean place that are aimed at Jodie, I'm not trying to get all sociological here, but I do think that people might be internalizing all the hatred toward Halle and they want to redirect it out somewhere. And I think they're maybe misguidingly like shooting it at Jodie.
So you essentially think they're like projecting.
Yes, they're projecting. They're projecting their
Jodie.
I believe that might be the case.
Instead of going after the trolls.
Right, because it's hard to go after the trolls. You don't know who they are. I don't know. It's just a theory. It may not be. entirely accurate. But
I do-
that's kind of what I perceive.
So
do
you
think they
think
just
she
can't-
doesn't deserve any criticism?
No, she does. Why would she?
No, I'm just asking because if you're saying these people who are sort of comparing the notes or comparing the, the way that they're performing.
Well, you're right. Like they're not comparing the notes in like a what's the word? A forthright kind of way. They're not doing it in like an honest kind of way. Like, cause you could compare the notes. I'm
You
on TikTok.
compared the notes.
I made
TikTok.
I made a TikTok comparing the
saw
actual objectively. Who objectively actually sang better? I thought Halle sang better.
Obviously.
Yeah, and granted, we haven't heard her full performance yet. But like I thought Jody wasn't a bad singer. She
No.
did fantastic. So if people want to do like an honest, objective comparison, that's one thing.
So I actually meant to ask, because you brought up, it was just the snippet that we have seen
Right.
of, or heard and seen of Halle.
Right.
Did you guys? I know I don't want to condone this, but have you guys seen the leaked of her?
I
The full,
did see the
full
leaked.
song.
Yes.
I did see the
Oh
leaked.
my god,
It's incredible.
it's incredible.
I was
Yes. holding
I just
back
needed
tears.
I needed to throw that in there because I want to make sure I didn't forget to say that because. We thought the little snippet was amazing, and
Yeah.
then seeing the full thing. I mean, it was like some shitty someone with their
Right,
phone, and I
right.
was like, this is so beautiful. So I mean,
It is.
I just had to
and
throw that
obviously
in there.
Halle Bailey's a fantastic singer. So and like not and again like if we're gonna objectively compare, I thought Jodie killed it too. She knocked it out of the park as well.
course.
But like I can hear the power in Halle's voice. I can hear the different. I can hear it more. She's a trained singer, and maybe Jodie is too. Obviously, I think in some capacity. But I kind of personally liked Halle's take a little bit better. But and that's the thing is like we can have that conversation about comparing them and who do you like more and like that's fine. But like I don't. We can have that conversation without being mean to anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it's Jodie or Halle, especially. I know she's been getting treated like crap for a lot of different reasons. But like
Mainly for being a black woman in
yes,
this role.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys knew this, but director Rob Marshall, I believe is his name.
Mhm.
He said in an interview at D23, I forgot who it was with, but I believe he's also said this previously. He said that Halle was the first person who auditioned, and she sang Part of Your World. And he said that she had raised the bar so high,
Of course.
that no one came close.
Of course.
And so I feel like people, it's just like you said before. I just want to bring it back to this that people are just trying to excuse their racism, saying,
Right.
"Oh, it's not like the original. Oh, her hair isn't red enough. Oh, this. Oh, that.
Right.
She's a fish." There was one TikTok video.
And-
People are like, "She's a fish. She's literally a mermaid."
And
like,
that's actually I want to end on this last point and kind of analyze. Disney seems to be kind of mixing up the casting lately, right? A little bit, like with Ariel. The Ariel one makes sense to me because it's like, you're right, she's a fish. A mermaid can be any skin color. But I want to ask about the princesses or whatever that have historically been written in storybooks and portrayed by Disney as like white women, like Cinderella or
Snow
Belle
White.
or Snow White, even Snow White, because what's her name? Rachel Zegler
Ziegler.
is going to play Snow White.
first
She-
Latina princess.
She's Hispanic. She's also white though. She's like has Polish ancestry in her as
Oh, I
well.
thought she's Puerto Rican.
She's Colombian and Polish.
oh, Colombian, not Puerto
And I
Rican,
know I don't know what she looks like to you, but she looks white passing to me. Rachel Zegler looks super white passing to me, and I feel like
She's definitely on the lighter side. for
yes.
sure.
And in the movie, it's almost kind of like it's like I'm not gonna. If you didn't know who Rachel Zegler was, you would see her and be like, yeah, I guess that's a white woman. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? So that one is like also kind of like it's not that big of a deal for me, right? But like with Disney's, because even with the Peter Pan live action movie, they're changing Peter Pan's race as well. Because in the cartoon, he was like a white guy. In the new movie, he's like an Indian kid or something.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Cool.
so it's called Peter and Wendy. So I guess my question is, with the mixing of the casting, like race-wise, if the characters especially if it's like a human character, right? Like Belle is set in France and Europe, is it a big deal if they mix up the casting like that going forward, or what? How do you guys feel about that?
I feel like we have to understand that the original is like white, right?
Right.
Like for the most part.
Right.
So changing and mix it up is just including others in that. And so when you
Exactly.
have people like Halle, it's like the original Ariel was a white fish. It
Right.
wasn't just like,
Right.
it wasn't written to be a certain characteristics. Like you couldn't be like, so it's just to say that I feel like we have to zoom out and kind of change our dialogue around this because it's really just diversifying Hollywood at this
Right,
point.
right.
It's not changing any status quo except it being an exclusive status quo that like originally.
And it's not like they are historical figures or real people.
That's right.
They are.
That's right.
Animated or
it's fictional characters. It's fictional characters.
A lot of them are based on like really gruesome fairy tales. Disney's or some of these like Cinderella and like Little Mermaid are actually based on like folk tales. I believe.
Right.
So it's like, who cares that they're changing the skin color and changing the race of these main characters?
Right.
But when I say who cares, I mean against the people that are being racist. But why I think this is so awesome of Disney and so important, and you briefly mentioned this, talking about the little girls watching and seeing themselves on screen. It's like, and even Halle had spoke about it. She was just like, this means the world to me. And but like those little snippet of that teaser, there were little girls just like, she looks like me. Oh, she looks like me.
Right.
And that's what matters. I noticed something similar. This is animated, but I don't know if you guys saw that viral tweet when Encanto came out, and there was that little black boy with the little afro, who like looked like the I forgot the character's name on Encanto, and they did a side by side, and it went viral because it's like this is who the films are for. They're for little kids.
I agree.
So these adults getting mad is just stupid. It's
ridiculous.
And I would say a small change, like in a casting, means the world to that one black girl or that one
and that's
child.
why it's important. Yeah.
What I was gonna say is, it's a shame that Disney, going back decades at this point, right? It's a shame that all of their princesses were white because the original source material,
except for Pocahontas,
right? Pocahontas, right? So certain Disney princesses were in fact like people of color or whatever, but like by and large, the main ones that everybody knew were white, and it's just unfortunate that it was sort of they were written that way, they were created that way without the foresight of seeing things because there's been a lack of representation for years. Going forward, Disney and just creators in general need to do a better job of writing original characters for people. You know what I mean? For people of color. But like, I guess it's going back. It's basically
or just include people of color in the original writing.
I agree, and like I guess what they're trying to kind of do
starts from the storyboard.
Yeah, because like these characters are so iconic and they're so ingrained in our pop culture. Disney's doing what they can to try to correct a little bit and send a little bit of and that what I'm saying is Disney's not even going, the people that are like getting all up in arms about this, Disney's not going overboard. Like just look at the live action remakes so far. Cinderella, a white woman played her. You know what I mean? I know there's the Brandy version. I don't know if that was actually released through Disney. I don't think it was.
It was like a television special.
I think it wasn't officially through Disney. But what I'm saying is like for the live action princess movies so far, like Belle, like Beauty and the Beast, Belle was a white woman. Cinderella was cast as a white woman. So like for all the people that are outraged, Disney isn't even going overboard with it either.
They're not being woke.
That's what I'm saying. Like for Ariel specifically, it makes sense because like she's a mermaid. She can be any color at all. You know what I mean?
But what do you mean by overboard?
Like basically, like people are saying, oh my God, Disney's going woke. They're changing the races, the races of all these characters just to do it, just for the sake of diversity, just to do it. But they're not though. What I'm saying is they're not. Disney's not doing that. Like it wouldn't, in my mind, it wouldn't really make sense to cast Belle, who was like a white woman in France at the time. It wouldn't make sense to cast her as a black woman. You know what I mean? Like just randomly, just to do it. That wouldn't make sense. And Disney didn't do that. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that even Disney itself, they seem to be like this. They're mixing it up where it makes sense, but they're not. I guess like what I'm saying is the narrative that they're going overboard with all this like woke casting or whatever the hell you want to call it. That's not true. It's just not true. You know what I mean? Like they're doing it where it makes sense. Like here, it makes sense to do this to me because it's like, like Ariel's a mermaid. It can be, she can be any race. It doesn't matter.
It makes a lot more sense in the future princesses to come.
That's what I'm saying.
Just basing off of white characters and then you mix it up. It should just be.
And that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
It's like, it's unfortunate that we have this list of iconic characters that were white from the beginning. And these characters have lasted for years now, even today. Kids love them. So like, yes, going forward, like Encanto is a great example. They made that movie. It was set in Colombia. It was, you know what I mean? It was good. It was seeking that representation. Going forward, they need to make more movies like that.
From the beginning.
Right. And like, I guess what I'm saying is like, for the ones that they're going to go back and kind of recast and mix up the race or whatever, it's fine. Like, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal.
But to be honest, I will say, I do think it's important now. Like, so many black girls and brown girls are gonna know Ariel as Halle.
You're right.
In years to come.
You're right, because they're growing up, little kids, they're growing up seeing the live action movie.
Maybe for.
Right. Maybe before they see the actual cartoon. So you're right about that, actually. It does matter.
Which is refreshing.
And lastly, it is nice to note that Jodie and Halle are like loving each other.
They're on good terms. Jodie's celebrating Halle, and
praising
Halle's
each other.
appreciating the love. So I'm excited to see it. her performance so far is giving me chills, and I think it's gonna pay off.
Yeah.
It's gonna be big. So
I can't wait.
For sure.
thank you for joining us,
Of
Cache.
course,
We
thanks,
appreciate this. It was
Thank you.
awesome. So that was a great conversation with
awesome.
Cache. We appreciate her coming on.
Thank you so much, Cache.
And with that, I think we can move on to our next segment, the Hollywood Hoedown. Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. Which is where we talk about our smaller breakout stories. And we've got to talk about Brie Larson and this interview she did with Variety over the weekend at the D23 Expo. This was happening when her new movie, The Marvels, I believe it's called, was being showcased. The trailer for that was being
showed the
showcased.
trailer.
Right. It's her character, Captain Marvel, joining forces with other
Miss Marvel.
other Marvel ladies, and they have their own movie now. That's the gist of it. And I don't know if it was either before she went in or after she came out, one or the other, but she's on the red carpet and they're asking her, hey, how long do you think you'll play Captain Marvel, or when do you think you'll play Captain Marvel again? Something to that effect. We actually have the clip real quick. Let's listen to it. This is from Variety here.
How long will you play Captain Marvel for?
I don't know. I don't know. Does anyone want me to do it again?
Don't be so modest.
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
So there it is. Brie Larson doesn't know because she's openly wondering whether people actually want her to play Captain Marvel again. And this all kind of comes back to this toxic fandom that has basically been shitting on her for a couple years now, at least, because they don't like her. I don't know what it is exactly, but
Don't know what it is.
people
She's
say
an Oscar winner.
Right. People
Don't
say
know
there's
why
an
people hate her.
unlikability factor about her. And you know, who knows where all this hate comes from, but it's there. It's real. She's got haters, like Captain Marvel haters.
The film was review bombed.
Yes, it was review bombed at the
Yeah.
time, and that's essentially the gist of it. So she's aware of that. Her answer here is basically saying, "I'm aware of the hate," and kind of shrugging her shoulders, like, "I don't know if I'm even going to do it again because I don't know if it's worth it." That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the other criticism about this interview is people were kind of groaning about this, saying, why is she even like leaning into this? Why not just give a polished answer saying, I'll stay as long as they'll have me, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I got to say, to that point, meaning that Brie Larson seemed to go out of her way to kind of give a snarky answer here, I will agree with. To me, it was completely unnecessary. And I don't watch enough Brie Larson interviews to weigh in on whether she's likable or unlikable. But from this clip alone, it came off as unlikable. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you making a big stink about this? Even if I get it, maybe if it is in fact affecting you, and maybe it is in fact getting on your nerves, and I get that you wanted to maybe show that a little bit, but in my opinion, she should have taken the high road and been professional and just kind of glossed it off or whatever. You know what I mean? And the fact that she kind of leaned into it. It was a bad look in my opinion. Where do you land on it?
Okay, so I agree with a little bit of what you said. So I do agree that what she said came off as a little rude, came off as a little passive aggressive.
Yeah.
And I also really like the Variety reporter Mark Malkin, and it's not. It almost seems like it's unfortunate that like it seemed like she was just like, why are you asking me this? Like,
right. It was an awkward interaction.
And he asked it just a simple question. So I don't think that I kind of felt bad for him in that way.
Right. Because he was trying to kind of downplay.
Yeah, he tried to like make it like try to like lighten the mood, and she was just like not for it.
Right.
However, I understand what you're saying is that she should have had a more polished answer and all of that. But I think she has every right to respond that way. After everything that she's been through and all of the treatment, I feel like maybe that was a gut response.
Sure.
Just like go on the defense. Like,
Which
do they want me to do it again? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, the candidness I can appreciate a little bit.
Yeah,
sure.
and she has a very dry, like deadpan sense of humor.
She
I don't
does,
think she meant this in a joking way, but I feel like that's how she is, which probably could, not to go into the why people think she's unlikable, but I think that could have something to do with it.
Right.
But I think in this sense, I think that she had a right to kind of like go on the defense. And also, like you mentioned, when she said, oh, people want me to do it again, obviously seems like a direct response to those people that have literally been like, we hate you, we don't like you, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
She basically is just like, well, they don't really want me to do it again, so I don't know if I'm doing it again.
Right. So you're basically saying her shooting from the hip is basically her authentic self, which is fine.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I sort of agree with that too,
I
actually.
think that she had a right to
express herself
in that way, and I feel like it maybe was just kind of like I feel like now she might have this guard. This is all speculation. She might have this like guard up, and maybe just that was her defensive reaction. Like, I don't know, like, you know,
right. Right.
So I understand why she responded that way. That doesn't mean that I think it was the way she should have responded.
True. And you know,
like both things can be true.
Yeah, you're right. Like like how people feel someone should respond or shouldn't respond, it's almost irrelevant, right? They're gonna respond however they respond. It is what it is. Even though I still have a kind of a bad taste in my mouth about it, you're right. It is kind of whatever. If I was Brie Larson, I would leave Disney behind because, as we know, with John Boyega, Disney fans are toxic. Like, Disney fans are toxic, whether it's for Star Wars or for Marvel or whatever IP it is. Disney fans are kind of crazy, and it's
And we were just talking about the Little Mermaid. Like,
yeah,
they're brutal.
They are brutal, and some of them are kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
if she leaves the Captain Marvel role behind, I wouldn't blame her. A lot of people were trying to send her support too, saying, "We love you as Captain Marvel. Don't leave. Keep doing it." That'll be her own decision,
yes,
obviously.
and I know we want to make this segment short today, so we
Right.
can just end on this. Is that I'm very interested to see what the response is when the Marvels comes out. Apparently, the
Right.
clip was awesome. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be really, really good. So I think that we'll see how the press tour goes when
Right.
the film
And
comes
how it's
out.
received
how
by
it's
fans.
received. Are
Right.
there going to be a lot of? Is it going to get review bombed? Is it going to be a repeat what
Right.
happened before, or is there going to be a change in the
Change in
in
tone. Right,
Yeah, so I
right.
think that'll be maybe
That
the
might
factor,
dictate
if she
stays or not.
Stays or not.
I
yeah.
agree. And with that, I think
Yeah.
we can move on to our next segment. What'd you see? What'd you think? I'm very excited about this. I'm just going to jump right in.
Go ahead.
We saw different movies this weekend. I saw Barbarian, which is the newest horror movie out in
did
theaters.
not.
It was it was fucking awesome. I'm sorry, I have to say, it was fantastic. It's getting rave reviews, rightly so. And the reason is because twists and turns, things you don't see coming. All of a sudden, the movie's going down this one road. It switches up on you, and then it switches again. There's so many twists and turns. My favorite thing about it, though, was Justin Long. Justin Long, who is not really in movies anymore these days. He's kind of faded out. He was a big thing in like the early 2000s
yeah.
with Dodgeball and everything and all the movies he was in back then. He was like hot stuff back then.
Yeah.
He has kind of faded into obscurity a little bit, unfortunately. He's done a lot of B movies sort of since then. But he's also kind of he's an iconic cult actor for horror movies specifically because one of Jeepers Creepers, which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. He's the lead in that. He was also in Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi's movie, as like the very concerned boyfriend who's going through a torment of a time. He was also in Tusk. Or no, is it Husk or Tusk? One of the movies where he plays a walrus. Okay. Tusk or Husk, forgive me, I forget the name. But he plays the walrus in that, where he's basically a guy who gets kidnapped by a demented mad scientist, and he literally gets surgically changed.
God.
He literally gets surgically changed into a walrus. So now here he is back in his fourth horror movie, and it is a fantastic performance. He plays an asshole, just a douchebag. It's so good, and I want to say I don't want to spoil it. People should go see this movie
Blindly, apparently.
Blindly. Don't read any spoilers, but I will say this, and this is kind of a spoiler-ish. This movie, in my opinion, really was a spiritual sequel to Jeepers Creepers, his first horror movie. And I actually did another TikTok about this too. Yeah, so I did a scene-by-scene comparison of some of the scenes that Justin's in for Barbarian compared to his old scenes from Jeepers Creepers, and it's uncanny how similar they are in terms of the theme and the vibe and what's happening. Even some of the shots, it's crazy. So if you like Jeepers Creepers, you're going to love Barbarian. You're going to love it. Even if you haven't seen Jeepers Creepers, you're going to love it either way. It is a good thrill ride. Go check it out. And that's where I'll leave it at that. What about you? What'd you see?
I also did want to mention that at TooFab, our senior producer Brian
saw that. You guys
interviewed the director, and he did 2 pieces on that. So go check that out.
Go check it out.
Okay, so I had a Disney-filled weekend. I actually went to...
Speaking of Disney, let's keep it
back
going.
Back to Disney.
Keep it going.
So I went to D23 Expo on Sunday for fun. I just wanted to note that. So again, big Disney-filled weekend. So I wanted to watch, well, not really, I kind of wanted to watch, but I knew it didn't have great reviews, the live-action Pinocchio.
Okay, that was released on Disney+.
Before I get to that, I want to say that I rewatched the original Pinocchio.
Of course.
Because I haven't seen that probably since I was a kid. I don't remember like anything. I just knew, when he lies, his nose grows face like that.
Right.
So first of all, it was so much darker than I remember.
The original?
The original.
Oh, the original's dark.
I guess I just never, as a kid,
especially when they get
right
taken
over
to, was it
Pleasure Island?
Pleasure Island
with the
yes.
donkeys,
oh
and then
God.
Geppetto gets etten by a whale, and it's just it's dark. Pinocchio gets captured. I'm like,
yeah,
this is a children's
kidnapped,
movie?
abductions, yes.
It's dark.
Child trafficking,
No,
there's a lot going on.
Straight up, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a children's movie?
Right.
But still, ultimately so sweet, heartwarming. Of course, it's a classic for a reason. Wish Upon a Star.
Yes.
Is iconic for Disney. They have it before their films.
Right. So how did the remake hold
Live
up?
action was garbage, as you would say. Garbage, trash.
It's a two-pack of ass.
I will say, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be because the reviews were terrible.
They were.
So it was bad, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
But I have to say, it was creepy. Like
The remake?
the remake, the live action, like Pinocchio looked like a Chucky doll for like it was like a kid's horror film. Like he looked creepy at one point. Like,
well, I mean, to be honest with you, the concept of making a live action Pinocchio, it lends itself to Chucky a little bit. It lends itself to kind of creepiness.
Literally, yeah, exactly. And I was thinking, first of all, why would they adapt this into a live action when so much of it is CGI?
Right,
Anyways, I'm like, why did they choose this for live action? Like,
Right.
there's like. It's like Geppetto, and I think he's like the only human. Like,
Right.
there's
the
a fox.
foxes,
Yeah,
a lot
the
of
donkey.
animals.
It's
a,
like, yeah, it's
kind of
like
a weird
all live
movie.
action.
You're right.
Like, why did they choose this for a live action movie? It's all so much CGI. And some of the CGI was good, but it was just Pinocchio himself was just creepy at one point.
Right.
Geppetto, I literally wrote this quote down. He's like, "Look at Pinocchio in the moonlight," and Pinocchio's like,
Jesus.
I'm like, this is a children's movie. Pinocchio
Right.
looks like he's about to go like rampage and like kill people, like
Yeah.
like straight up like Chucky. But they also made several changes which I didn't like.
Okay.
I will admit that Figueroa the cat and Cleo the fish were cute. Like that was
Okay,
cute.
sure.
Like yeah,
They're
but
cute
like
in the original,
they're cute in the
too.
original too. Like they were cute.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks was okay as
Yeah.
Geppetto. I mean, he
Terrible
was
accent.
yeah, the accent wasn't
He's on
great.
a terrible accent
Honestly,
campaign
though, it
right
was
now.
better than Elvis.
True.
Geppetto was better than the
All right, that's saying-
than the
that's
Colonel
saying-
Tom Parker
that's saying
accent. That
something.
it was an upgrade. Cynthia Erivo was the Blue Fairy.
Fairy godmother,
But
right?
and she obviously has an incredible voice. So to see
Yes.
her and listen to her sing "When You Wish Upon a Star" was
Yes.
just awesome.
Right.
But the problem is they only had the Blue Fairy in one tiny scene. She was on the screen for like, I don't know, like a minute, and they didn't
Right.
have the other Blue Fairy scenes. She wasn't in them, like in the original.
Interesting. Yeah.
But ultimately, the thing, more than the creepy Pinocchio, more than the changes, the thing that bothered me the most out of this whole thing, and this is a spoiler, not that I think that we really care about this, but the biggest change, Pinocchio didn't turn into a real boy at the end.
What?
I'm like,
What are you talking
what
about?
the F? That's the whole point of the story. He proves himself to be
Truthful, right,
unselfish,
good
brave,
boy.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically proves himself to be a real boy. But at the end, they had like Jiminy, like Geppetto, after he saves Geppetto, Geppetto's like, you're a real boy in my heart, blah, blah, blah. And
Oh,
then,
what?
and then Jiminy's like, some say that Pinocchio's story has been told many times, and some say he turned into a real boy, but all that matters is real boy in his heart, something like that. And I was like, what the F? I'm like,
Yo.
Pinocchio has to turn into a real boy. You can't change that.
He has to. Oh my god.
That's like essential.
Why is Disney? Oh my god.
That
I
is
can't.
essential.
I can't.
Disney, I'm all for making.
Also, I also heard that Pinocchio doesn't get drunk in this movie in the live action because
No.
he got faded in
No,
the
he didn't
cartoon.
get
He was like
drunk.
smoking cigars,
He's holding
drinking
it.
beer.
He doesn't get drunk. He doesn't get drunk.
What?
I know.
Oh, what a jip.
And there was
I'm
no
sorry.
smoking. There was no the smoking. There was
What
no
a
smoking.
jip. Jesus.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm like, okay, Disney. This is
I
a
would-
live action that I did not like.
I'm
and
glad it went
not a
straight to
fan of
Disney
this.
Plus
Yes,
because
this would have
sounds
no.
that sounds bad. All right. Well, that's
Yeah.
a great play. That's a great note to leave things on. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Check us out on Spotify, Apple, iHeart. We're on the website. We're on YouTube.
Yeah.
And we will check in with you guys next time.
See ya.
Take it easy.